The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at coolstuffinc.com. The Dice Tower, episode 534.
The best and worst of 2017.
Welcome to the Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, we have 50% more hosts as Suzanne joins us to run through the best and worst games of 2017. We'll hit our favorites for Family Game, Brainburner, Most Disappointing Game, and more. And Tom tries on his prediction hat as we list our top 10 games of 2017. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the BB-8 of board gaming, Tom Vassell.
Well, that was interesting, Eric. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Folks, thanks for coming to our best of 2017. Mostly, we call it the best and worst, but it's really just mostly the best.
Yeah.
Because I don't really like dwelling on the worst too much. We mentioned it a little bit, but really want to talk about the best. But hey, folks, today we are joined by one of our hosts, Suzanne. Thanks for coming on the show with us today.
I'm pretty excited to look back on 2017 with y'all.
Now, before we get to any of the games, we should also mention that your compatriot is missing.
Indeed. Unfortunately, I think a busy end of year took its toll on poor Mandy, and she is stricken with a massive sinus and ear infection and is just in huge amounts of pain and completely laid out. It's pretty much the only thing that would keep her from joining us because, of course, she would be thrilled to be, on this show with us as well. So I really am so sorry that she's so very, very sick, and I miss her already on the show.
I mean, just a week ago, we were on the cruise ship, basically, and saying, oh, yes, we're going to do our top 10 lists of the year together. And we were all excited about it. And,
Exactly.
Mandy had to send a note saying, I'm out of commission, guys. I can't do this.
Yep. So we'll have to make sure to get her thoughts on 2017, either in one of our podcast episodes or in like a Q&A or something in the future.
Yeah. And we hope she feels better soon.
Definitely.
I agree. We tried to delay our recording so that she could make it, but it just wasn't able to work out. So, Mandy, we know you were here in spirit, and your answers would have been better than all of ours. Except mine.
Or at least more polite.
So, folks, this year, 2017, I think was a fantastic year. I predicted to Eric, before we recorded this show, that in our top 10s, we would have no crossovers between I said the four of us, but for the three of us, I'm holding real stand true for that. I think this was an amazing year. I think that's partially because we may get to the point where every year is an amazing year at this point, if only because so many games are coming out. And
right, there's more chances for good ones to be there.
Yeah, I think definitely that's like the overall feeling I'm getting from the industry is not that, everyone's always worried that there's some bubble about to burst. And I don't think there's a bubble, but I think we're creaking under just an absolute glut of games being published to the point where a really excellent, amazing game can be forgotten in a month. And, and because of that, so like I said, we're going to all have different top 10s, and our top 10 games are all amazing. But for a game to stand up and shine and become like, this game is going to sell a gazillion copies, that's really hard. I don't know that there was any game in 2017 that has stood head and shoulders above the rest. And if there were two that I think sold a gazillion, and I'm speaking outside mass market and the little, kittens in a blender type games, because I'm not really sure which of those might have done well. But I think both of the Plan B games, the Century Spice Road and Azul, in the second half of the year have done exceptionally well. Can you guys think of any other game that really has? I mean, and I know that there's the darlings of us board gamers, right? But I don't know that there's like a game like Dominion, Pandemic, etc. that has dominated the hobby.
It's tough to say. I mean, there's Pandemic Legacy 2, which seems to be, although it's only been out for a very short amount of time, it seems to be doing pretty darn well out there.
Yeah, we've got a couple of the Kickstarter darlings, too, that have finally reached backers like Gloomhaven and Seventh Continent that are still getting buzz, but those aren't necessarily the retail darlings.
So here's my thing. I think it's not a single game, but I think there is a genre of games that is poised to become this big overall sell everywhere. And I think that was even noticed in the Kennerspiel des Jahres, and that's the escape room genre.
For sure.
I mean, we're seeing a pile of them come out, and we're seeing talk about them more and more, and we're even seeing tendrils of the ideas in escape room games going into other things. Escape rooms themselves have become a huge phenomenon, and while that may die out in a few years, I don't know, the board game thing will probably roll with that for a while. And I, for one, am thrilled with this because I enjoy these quite a bit.
Yeah, in fact, I just played one of the Deckscape adventures last night, and I am taken with, there's kind of the four major lines of them right now. There's the escape room in a box, exit, unlock, and then Deckscape. And I'm really fascinated by how different each of those runs of escape rooms or approaches are. And each one provides a compelling experience in and on itself, even though they're kind of in that master genre that you were talking about, Tom. And I think it's pretty exciting. We've really enjoyed them.
Oh, I adore them. Although the danger with these is there are so many, and I like the genre so much, it has the danger of taking up all of my game time. Like when I have an hour or 90 minutes and I want to play a new game, it's often one of these escape games. And, you know, I'm sort of shunning away some of the other traditional board games to play these, and there are so many of them. I have a bunch of exits that I haven't played yet that I'm dying to do so.
I got some unlocks I haven't played yet for the same reason. Yeah, but again, I think it's a good problem to have. And I like these because I'm obviously a cult of the new junkie to some. The delving into a new experience is thrilling to me, more so than finding the depths of a game. I understand the joy of that, but I'd rather find a new game, and escape rooms, that's the whole experience.
Yes, it is.
But I've also noticed a couple other trends with this year. I've noticed that there is two very seemingly opposite ends. First, we're seeing a lot of abstract games that are happening. There's really strong abstract games from Santorini to Photosynthesis, which have some sort of theme, right? But it's really an abstract game, to the newest, The Link was released. There's a lot of abstract games, Dragon Valley. And these games are beautiful components and really getting, some buzz. Look at Azul. That is essentially an abstract game. And it is doing extremely well. On the other hand, last year, we were talking about legacy games, right? I'm like, are we going to see a gazillion legacy games? Well, the fact is we're not. Now, I think part of that is the scare story of Seafall, right? How badly that did for the hype.
True.
But they're also really hard to do, and there's a lot of people who are kind of opposed to this, tear up a game type thing. And you can get that experience in an escape room. But instead, we're seeing some legacy games, but we're seeing a ton of games with campaigns and elements that go into the next game. And I noticed, Eric, you put this on the document also.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm a little overloaded on these campaign games. Yes, this has always been an aspect of our hobby. It's not like we haven't had campaign games in our industry, but it seems like there's a ton now. And I've got this stack of games that I'm not sure when I'm getting a chance to play all the way through them. Seventh Continent, as I mentioned, Stuffed Fables, Gloomhaven, Pandemic Legacy 2, Near and Far, Apocrypha. These are all games that I've just sort of stuck a toe in, but I don't know when I can devote the time to actually complete the campaign. Some are at the top of the pile and I'm sure will get worked through, but some of these others, I want to play them, but I'm not sure when it's going to happen. So I'm a little overwhelmed with all of these campaign games.
I feel the same. I'm really excited about like Seventh Continent. I backed Seventh Continent recently in its latest Kickstarter, but as you know, they ran this campaign, so they kept on adding more and more add-ons as the days went by. And at first I was like, oh, I got to up my pledge level. Oh, I got to up my pledge level. And then it got to the point where I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
When am I going to get to play all of this? And I actually went back down to like the base game level after a while because I realized there's so much content that unless you make this kind of a lifestyle game, which many people will and do, I know people that they have their Gloomhaven night once a week and that's all they play for a long, for hours. I'm just not gonna get everything out of it that those pledge levels would have added on, and I'm excited to immerse myself and to have that kind of world building within the game and things like that. But I recognize, especially for the way I get to play games, it's a lot, and I don't know how somebody would tackle, all of those games you just said, Eric. How would anybody kind of commit to all of them? I just don't know how they would.
You can't. I have to do them one at a time, and or maybe two. But then by the time I finish one, another 3 will be out, and so I'm feeling a little buried at the moment.
Yeah, well, that burial is not going to go away because more and more are going to come and come and come. Now, this is good for the consumer, right? You just pick one that you think is great, play it, enjoy that game. You actually save money this way because you'll be able to play the game for a really long time. Unfortunately, many of our listeners of this show and many consumers in general buy these games with the intent of playing them all the way through, but they never do. And this always is why I'm kind of astounded when someone owns, let's say, Massive Darkness, and they don't have every single pack for it. So they frantically are hunting down these extra packs. You're never going to get to the stuff you have. You got like a gazillion. I mean, if you played everything you have, it'd be like 50 months worth of content. Why are you worried about missing this one PDF scenario somewhere?
Well, it's a little bit of a tangent, but going back to Seventh Continent, a lot of these games are being Kickstarter exclusive in its entirety. Like Seventh Continent is not being released in retailers. They have no plans to do so. And so this is a now or never sort of situation. You either buy it all now, or you don't get it, or you have to buy it on the second-hand market.
So what do you think about that, Suzanne? Simon just announced that their new Hate game is going to be Kickstarter only. Seventh Continent did that. The Batman Monolith game did that, where they're not going to retail. I mean, well, you can get them to retail if you do like a retail pledge, but that's it.
Right. It's an interesting shift in the model, and I think it really speaks to how a few things. And one, how Kickstarter has really cemented itself as a foundational business model within our industry. And also, I think it speaks to some of the elements that maybe the general hobbyist may not understand, but some of the economics of board game production and print run count and things like that. And I think it's an interesting approach. And Eric, I really appreciate what you're saying. They're saying, hey, you can't get this in retail. And that is true. But Seventh Continent is a great example. They did Seventh Continent. It's never going to go to retail. People missed out. Oh, me, oh, my. And then, boom, there's a second campaign. And then people could jump in. So they built up an interesting amount of buzz out of the first campaign. And then they launched the second campaign, which was out of the world, successful from a financial point of view for them. Simulacra, there's a campaign right now as we're recording about this puzzle hunt escape room style game. They've also said that they're not going to go to retail. It'll be interesting to see how the industry responds to it. It's so niche. The people who will know this thing even exists will be the hardcore hobbyists like us. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of sentiment that drives, what kind of interest that develops, and whether it ends up creating some resentment or some, fear of missing out and things like that, or, whether that ends up being a positive for these campaigns or not, or whether they get a little backlash. I think it's a little early to tell because it just not that many campaigns have done it and been established at this point, but I'm keeping my eye on that. The way Kickstarters are evolving their pricing models and campaign models is really fascinating.
Yeah, this is Kickstarter is really changing. And I think they can afford to change to some degree because I think 2017 is the year Kickstarter has come into its own. If you look at Board Game Geek and look at the top ranked games of 2017, the top 4 are Kickstarter games. Mm-hmm. From, what are they? Gloomhaven, Seventh Continent, Anachrony. No, not Anachrony. What's the one with the mechs? Time travel, jumping around.
It was Anachrony.
Is that Anachrony? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Anachrony, Near and Far is a Kickstarter. And some people might say, well, some of these companies like Ryan Laukaitz always uses Kickstarter. Maybe, I guess if you want to call him a big guy. But all the rest of these are like small publishers, tiny publishers. And their games are the most talked about games. They are going head to head, at least in a critical sense, not maybe sales-wise, but head to head critically against Asmodee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. Because I think that's great for the hobby. Everyone was worried that, Asmodee taking over everything. But they haven't taken over Kickstarter. That's where the rebellion is. Sorry, I watched Star Wars today, so I'm very, very in a rebel-motivated mood.
I don't see it till tomorrow.
It's an amazing movie, by the way.
Spoilers! No spoilers! I'm trying to go see it tonight after we record.
Spoiler! I said it was an amazing movie.
I was worried about where you were going to, you had me worried. I got to shut it all down.
Okay.
No talk.
Fair enough. That's all I'm saying.
I will say, though, too, it's an interesting thing because all those games you mentioned, Wasteland Express Delivery Service, Massive Darkness, later on in the episode, we're going to talk about component quality. And I think Kickstarter, and when you talk about Asmodee, you remember how FFG used to be Component King and Days of Wonder used to be Component King. And Tom, you've said this a lot. Now, every game is Days of Wonder quality, whereas 7 years ago, Days of Wonder was out, just not even in the same league from a quality of production point of view. You look at what Kickstarter has enabled from fronting all of this production money. It's really allowed board games to increase their production quality. And so all of these games that you mentioned at the top of the list that were crowdfunded, they also happen to contain phenomenal quality components. And it's really up-leveling the industry. It makes it difficult, I think, for smaller people that don't necessarily have that financial modeling or support up front. But I think on the whole, it's increasing, hobbyist expectations about what they can get out of a box. And I think there's pros and cons to that. But certainly from an output point of view, component quality, I think, has gone to a new level.
Totally agree. Oh, by the way, and it's 7 out of the top 10 ranked games of 2017 are Kickstarter.
Wow.
It's Gloomhaven, Seventh Continent, Anachrony, Clans of Caledonia. Then there's Pandemic Legacy Season 2 from that's Z-Man. Near and Far, Lisboa, I think that was Kickstarted.
It was.
Century Spice Road, which wasn't. Sagrada, which was. And Codenames Duet, which wasn't. So Codenames Duet, Century Spice Road, and Pandemic Legacy Season 2 are the only 3 in the top 10 that were not Kickstarted. And then if I go into the next 10, there's more Kickstarter stuff. This is just phenomenal to me. So we'll see where this leads in the future. I also say that I've seen some other changes in the industry. It's interesting to see Plan B just, oh my goodness, I don't know where they're going. Them buying Eggert Spiel and hitting to that just the beginning, and then having Azul and Century, like 2 really strong games this year. Z-Man. Z-Man was initially, they would publish everything and just, everything. And some of it was good, some of it was bad. F2Z bought them, and they were still kind of doing the same thing, but they had some really big hits and such. But now, I'm really seeing Z-Man kind of focus this year. I'm very happy with the games that they've been coming out with. It seems if a game comes out and it says Z-Man, I can automatically assume it will be good.
Nice.
Any other thoughts on the year?
Well, I just wanted to mention that I think that 2017 has been a really great year and an interesting year for board game apps. The digital revolution, and I know that this is pretty divisive within the hobby, but the fact is a digital revolution in board games, it is upon us. And Asmodee Digital specifically has really dove into the pool. They are, from all intents and purposes, it really looks like they're making an attempt to be the Asmodee of digital board game apps, and that they really want to have this huge umbrella to the point where they are the producing partner for the app version of games that have nothing to do with Asmodee, the physical edition. Asmodee has nothing to do with the physical edition, but yet Asmodee Digital is producing the board game app version, which I think is fascinating. But when you look at the apps that came out this year, Potion Explosion, Agricola All Creatures Big and Small, Terra Mystica, Roll for the Galaxy, these board game app implementations are excellent. The production quality is excellent. The AI quality is excellent. The feature set is excellent. They are fun to play. They're portable. They replicate the board game experience beautifully in a digital format. And I personally find that extremely exciting. And I'm looking forward to 2018 because I think that trend is going to continue. But 2017, I think when we look back, 2017 is going to be the year that board game apps really stepped it up and really became a major facet of the hobby and industry.
You mentioned that they're divisive. Why?
Well, personally, because I've dealt in the app world for a while in board games, I find that there are just a lot of people that say, hey, I love board games because they're analog. I don't want you messing around I don't want digital messing around in my analog heaven. And I can understand that. There's a lot of people that are, really don't like app integration into board games. And then there are a lot of people that don't like just straight ports of it. They're like, hey, why would I do that? I want to play with people. I want to have the tactile experience of a board game. And they're not really into the digital implementations. And I can understand their perspective. I don't personally agree with it, but I can see where they're coming from.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. What about Mr. Roland Wright?
Oh,
that's the one thing we say on our show, and no one ever knows what we're talking about.
Right. It's a nice segue there, Suzanne. As an avid fan of roll and write games, just like I was talking about digital board games, roll and write games, these silly little pencil and paper games, that Yahtzee is basically a roll and write game. I don't know if everybody it is, basically. This has been an amazing year for roll and write games, and I'm so excited by that. I think when you look at what has come out, it has really shown the depth and breadth and complexity and variety you can get out of this simple format. Harvest Dice, Cosmic Run Rapid Fire, 21, Welcome to Dino World, Castles of Burgundy the Dice Game, Kokoro. Just within that short list, all of these games are beautiful, they're different, they're fun, and they're all steeped in that simple score sheet, pencil, some kind of randomizing element like a dice or a card. And I think that that's really, really exciting. I know 2018 is going to be a great year too, but when you look at 2017 and the volume of roll and writes that have come out that were good, it's pretty darn cool.
Neat. I wonder if 2018 will be the year of roll and write. We'll have to wait and see. Now, before we get to the rest of our episode, folks, the first thing we want to clarify is it is impossible. Literally, I know this for 100% sure factoid that no one on earth can play all the games that come out in a given year. Yeah. To be more clear, nobody can even play all the significant games that come out over the course of a year. How do I know this? Because it's my job, and I still can't get them all in. And so as we made these lists and put everything together, know that if who plays I don't know, there's probably someone who plays a lot more board games than me, but I play more games than most people. If I can't get all these in, then no one else can either. But I still think it's important that we do lists like this because they give ideas to others. And I have played about 400 plus games that came out this year. Oh. So that's a lot. And Suzanne's played about 600 or 700. And Eric, a couple thousand that came out this year.
Yeah.
Some numbers may be exaggerated for episodal purposes. But it's just the fact that, again, this glut in gaming, I'm like, I want to play Hunt for the Ring, and I still haven't played Gaia Project, and I didn't, there's just so many games that I haven't got to yet.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I know as I was going through the games that came out in 2017, I have a list. I have a list of over 10 games that I feel like could potentially be in my top list of 2017 that I haven't played yet, that I haven't managed to get to the table. And so doing this, I hope we get another chance to maybe do a look back, or maybe for Dice Tower Awards or something, we can revisit some of this stuff, because without a doubt, I'm really happy with my top 10 list that I came up with for this episode, but there's so much more.
Yeah, I've got probably about 10 things on my list that were high up there, like Pandemic Legacy Season 2. I barely touched because we lost the intro game, and my wife and son wanted to reset. They don't want to head into the deep water yet. And so I haven't really played that yet. Many other things on that list, too.
You lost the intro game?
Yes, we lost the intro game.
I'm making fun of a kid now. I just realized that. Never mind.
He's a child, Tom. Just a child.
All right, let's get started here.
So let's kick things off by talking about our biggest surprise of the year.
Yeah, now for most of these folks, I have a hard time talking about any one specific game, so I made a video of the top 10s of each category on this list. Well, most of them.
Oh, well, fine, you overachiever.
I just like doing top 10s. But, and so any one of these, if you go watch my top 10, there's always the chance that the one I put here is not the number one of my top 10, because some of these are very subjective, right? My top 10 of all time, I'm very, very set on. But these are kind of like, that's what I thought of at this point in time. So I'm going to start with Paper Tales. This is a small little drafting game. Had really beautiful artwork, looked like cut out paper, like someone used paper and cut out and made these figures. But it's simply just draft 4 figures. You use the 4 cards. You're using these cards to fight the people next to you, kind of like Seven Wonders, but also get different resources. So it's a little lighter than 7 Wonders, but it just plays so smoothly, so nicely. I love this little game. Highly recommend it. Paper Tales.
I thought Can't Stop Express was going to be garbage.
I still think that.
As soon as I heard about it, I was like, this is a ridiculous cash grab, and I don't even know why we need to do an express version of Can't Stop, which already plays really fast. But it's actually an interesting variant on the system and a way for everybody to play with the same dice. And I like it as an alternate way to roll some dice and pair them up. Can't Stop Express was my biggest surprise.
And for me, Medici the card game was my biggest surprise. I mean, I personally really, really enjoy Medici. I like the auction mechanic and things like that. And then Grail Games comes out with a card game version. I'm like, what? Well, it turns out really it is a push your luck card game. And it's just super engaging. It's easy to teach. It's quick to play. It scales incredibly well between the player count. And with the set collection and everything like that, it's got some smart decisions for a push your luck game. It's excellent. Medici the card game was a delightful surprise.
I haven't had a chance to play this one because my group borrowed it out of my bag, played it, decided they didn't like the elements that were removed from the full-size Medici, and now they refuse to play it.
Oh, that's a darn shame, because it is great.
Your group sucks, Eric. I'm sorry. I know they listen to this show. But
they get grumpy sometimes.
Will you stop treating Eric like this, guys? And Eric, just be assertive. They're like, I refuse to play this game. Go find some people who will play it.
Okay, yes, sir.
I said be assertive. Don't fight back against me, Eric. Oh, no, actually, don't do that. That would make the show hard to do.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about the up, let's talk about the down, our biggest disappointment of 2017.
So very many, but I think for me, it's going to be Unfair. I really had high hopes for Unfair. I really expected this to be a spectacular game about roller coasters and building a theme park. It's a theme I love. Actually, I guess both theme park games this year have kind of been. I mean, I liked Coaster. What's it called?
Roller Coaster Park?
Is that what it's called? Roller Coaster Park, the one with the marbles? I thought that'd be like the greatest game ever, and it's a goodish game, and that's about it, right? So that was disappointing a little bit. But this one I didn't like at all. Unfair, and I know the game is called Unfair, but I had hoped that the take that wasn't just so much in your face, like, hey, I built this big thing. Pfft, no, you didn't. I just shut it down. And it didn't have that amusement park theme as much as I'd like it to. Beautiful artwork. In fact, I considered it for best art, but this one didn't really do much for me.
My biggest disappointment is a game called Super Mario Brothers Power-Up Card Game. This was on the shelf at Target as one of the Target exclusives right next to the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego game, which I thought, that's not a perfect game, but it was a pleasant distraction and really fit the theme well. It really embraced it. It was nostalgic and it was kind of cute and cool. And this one, I played it almost immediately after, and it is some sort of basic just a standard deck of cards sort of game that has very little choices. You either hold your card or replace it with a top deck card, and hopefully you have the highest card, and that's kind of it. It's just, there's nothing there, and it doesn't fit the theme in any way other than the art on the cards. It's basically a themed deck of cards, and anyway.
Now, Eric, did you really have high expectations for an IP-based game that you found at Target?
I think I was led down a path of high expectations thanks to Carmen Sandiego. And I know they're different publishers.
Okay, this happens to him all the time. You need to stop this, Eric.
I thought maybe we were out of the dark and that this was the point at which we turn and that the mass market games would be good. And it's like Charlie Brown with the football.
For reals. I find your dedication to optimism inspiring, Eric.
I gotta stay positive.
That's adorable. And my biggest disappointment of the year is Ethnos, which I was wondering. I assume I'm going to get some flack for this one, but I know so many people that absolutely adore this game, and I just don't get it. The components are kind of cool. The pieces are kind of cool. The graphic design and colors are awful.
I agree on that.
The board is bland. And oh, look, I can draw a card. Oh, I can't do anything. Great. Oh, I draw a card. Oh, I can't do anything. Great. Oh, draw another card. Oh, nope, can't do that. Okay. Draw another card. Nope. Oh my gosh. It just, oh, look, and now I have this thing. It gives me a half a point, kind of not. I just didn't, maybe we have the wrong character mixes going on when we played, but I just wasn't feeling it at all. It just was not interesting, not engaging, and there was no tension. So, I'm glad there are a lot of people out there who like it, but Ethnos was a miss for me.
This was actually like runner-up for my biggest surprise.
Yeah, this still sits unplayed on my my pile. I threw it on a cool stuff order recently, just based on the wonderful things people have been saying about it. And
I love the fact that Super Mario Brothers Power Up was higher on your prioritization list to play than Ethnos.
You got to seize the opportunities while you can. All right, we mentioned components and how they've been going up and up and up. Which games had the best components of 2017?
I'm actually going to toss this one to Suzanne to go first, since she apparently can't put one.
No, she can't decide.
You're cheating. Don't look at my list, you cheater. All right, look. Component quality of games is stellar nowadays, and I, nudge, nudge, elbow, elbow, Tom, I want us to start talking about how we break down categories of components, because how do you compare a game that has really great wooden bits to a game that has like a CMON game that has all those minis and things like that? It's really, really tough. So, I had things like Bunny Kingdom on it, but then there's Photosynthesis that has phenomenal little cardboard trees. Yeah, they're just cardboard, but they're awesome. So I definitely had some trouble on here. I think there might be some overlap, but ultimately I went with Too Many Bones from Chip Theory Games. This is a massive box full of it could be a weapon. It's so heavy and big, and it uses their poker chips as different pieces for the monsters and as life trackers, and they're great quality poker chips with art on them. All of the dice are custom screen printed dice in a variety of colors that roll great. And the player boards and centerboard and things like that, it's all neoprene. It's all like the mouse pad material printed on it with little custom cutouts where you get to put all of your dice as you build them up and things like that. It's massive. Everything is thoroughly thought out. Even the trays in the box. Every player gets their own dice tray to hold their color of dice in front of them, and it all packs away from end to end. Everything in that box is excellently done from a component quality point of view. So, best components for me is Too Many Bones.
Okay, so, that's interesting because Too Many Bones wouldn't make my top 10. I thought that the graphic design would disqualify it, actually. I don't think the graphic design's that good.
Oh, interesting.
But this year, again, just amazing components across the board. I had a really hard time finding the game of great components. I'm not even sure there was one. So the closest I think to that was Wasteland Express Delivery Service. And I've even played this game yet. But I've opened it and looked at it, and it's just amazing. The miniatures are great. The board looks cool. I like the artwork. The inserts for it are phenomenal. And I think it's just a top-notch production across the board. No, I mean, I think it's possible to pick this and artwork category without having played the games by looking at them. But I considered every game on Suzanne's list except for Too Many Bones, actually. But I thought about Chimera Station. That's pretty cool. Azul, just beautiful. There's a lot of great, especially these abstract games. Dragon Castle, just fantastic.
Yeah, Dragon Castle was another good one too. And Wasteland Express was on my list. The fact that instead of just putting cubes for the cargo, they actually molded tiny little different cargo shapes is almost over the top. Ridiculous.
Yeah, this was a runner-up for me as well. I went with Dice Forge for my selection, partially because of the way the whole thing packs back into the box. You have these dice that you can remove faces on and replace them all, but they go in a tray that then goes inside a sleeve, which then gets a rubber band around it, but then you set that to the side because you have to put all the cards in and the dice in proper slots, and even the cardboard components and tokens go into the insert and sort of lock into place so they don't move around inside, and the whole thing packs together into a solid block that doesn't shift, which is amazing. Also, the dice are cool. Dice Forge gets my nod for best components.
So I gotta say, this amuses me. And I actually like Dice Forge, the game. I like the dice construction thing. But a few games have made me angrier this year when I was setting them up than Dice Forge. That tray, conceptually, that you're talking about, Eric, that holds the dice faces, conceptually, it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But maybe you're just much more dexterous than I am because I laid out all the tokens right where they need to go, and then I put it in the sleeve, and the sleeve caught the chips and flipped them up, and I had to pull it out and start again on some of them. I did it again, and I did it again. It flipped them out again, and I had to pull I found it quite frustrating to use the very system that you talked about, thinking was so cool. So I agree. The component quality itself, like the plastic quality and all that stuff, works great. But that sleeve, man, you got to show me your tricks on how you do it well.
It requires training.
Clearly.
And focus. So let's talk about the art of 2017. Tom mentioned this is one of the ones you can just look at a game and know it deserves to be on this list. What's the best art of the year?
A lot of good choices. I'm giving props in advance to my co-host for their choices. But I'm going to go with Rising 5. Now, part of this is because I'm partial to Vincent Dutrait. His stuff is amazing. I just played the game Battlefold, which doesn't have anything to do with artwork at all. You're just folding up cloths and stuff, but his artwork's on it. I think he's the best in the business, and Rising 5 just looks phenomenal. It looks like some cool action sci-fi, hero, Firefly kind of vibe type with aliens and stuff. The game itself is pretty good, but his artwork really adds to it. Rising 5.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned Ryan Lockett already on the show. Near and Far is my selection because of the just overall aesthetic of the whole thing. You've got all these illustrations of characters of various races and stuff, but there's also sort of a layer of polish to everything in this box. When you remove the cover, it feels like you're digging into a world. in Near and Far. You know that everything has been thought out, everything has been given that extra shine to fit into this world, and you know you're going to get to explore that when you start playing the game. Just all of those little touches really make this game shine. That's why it's my pick, Near and Far.
Yeah, that was a great one, and definitely I may have seen you write that one down, Eric, and I may have made a last-minute switch because I don't want to duplicate. But that's okay, because what I have chosen for best art is an easy one to pick, and that is Lost Expedition from Osprey Games. This art by Garen Ewing, if you're familiar with like the art from Tintin or these kind of classic comic style art, that's really what Lost Expedition is all about. And besides just the quality of the art itself and the vast amounts of it, because there's custom art on all the cards and on the board, the little boards and stuff like that, is that the style of the art really enhances the feel of the game. And it helps immerse me into this theme of going through this jungle adventure and looking for the lost city of Z. And the art just puts me in there, which is why Lost Expedition rose to the top for me for best art.
They really went with the aesthetic and ran with it on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they just
It really looks great. Fantastic.
So we're all family gamers. What made 2017 good for family gaming?
Since I, spoiler alert, I'm discluding them from being in my top 10 games for the year for various reasons, mostly just because I don't know how to do it. Do I do one? Do I do them all as category? Whatever. So I'm putting them here, and that's the exit games. Or escape room games, I guess, but I'm specifically going to say the exit games because I thought they really worked well for family. I think they work better for family than the unlock games do. Although you could argue that the Deckscape ones are even better because they're easier. But either way, this escape room game, easily the best experiences I had this year with my family, for sure. So much fun, so entertaining. We've really enjoyed them.
I agree with you. I almost named one of the escape games as my best family game. The only reservation is that often my kids will shut down if they're having trouble with a puzzle and sort of lose interest, and I have to get the thing moving again before they're interested. I went with Meeple Circus, which is one of the late entries of the year, but a terrific dexterity game with an element of fun and zaniness that I think I really appreciate. And I think the kids are in bed. I have ordered a copy for Christmas, so hopefully it gets here in time. Anyway, I think that's a great family game. Excellent choice.
I love Meeple Circus. That is an awesome choice, Eric. For me, my kids are a little bit younger, and so we're still in that kind of zone. So when I think about family games, I do think about games that are kind of geared towards younger kids still. And so this year we picked Tiny Park, which is from Haba USA. And this is a really simple game where you're rolling custom dice, and it's, thematically you're building a little amusement park, and it's adorable, and the art is great. And then you've got these Tetris-like polyominoes, and as you roll dice, those dice let you pick a piece that you get to put on your player board to build out your park. And the first player to fill up their board with these pieces wins. And so it's got that puzzly element, and you get to make the decision with your dice and the Yahtzee mechanic of whether you're going to re-roll, things like that. It's simple, it's quick, but my 5-year-old can play it and enjoy it. My 9-year-old enjoys it, and I enjoy it. And so that is why Tiny Park is my best family game of the year.
For many of the muggles of the world, party games are board games to them. So what is our pick for people looking for a great party game in 2017?
It's a pretty weak year for party games, or at least new party games. There's always good party games that come out, but when the highest rated 3 party games are basically redone versions, like I would have picked Chameleon, but technically that came out in 2016. Werewords I like a lot, but let's be honest, it's essentially Insider. So I'm going to go with Muse. And this one just squeaks in there because it just came out like now from Quick Simple Fun Games. This is like a takeoff of, what's the game? Dixit and Mysterium. It has those kind of cards, and it's team versus team, and you have to give a clue, but the type of clue you give is different each time. And so it's much more of a game, I guess, than some of the other party games, and I really enjoy it. So, Muse.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I've only played, I think, a round and a half of this, so I haven't really played it yet. My pick is Crosstalk, which made a huge splash at my family game day. My son adores this game. It has that password vibe, so my family has played that in the past, and so it really connected with them. It drew a crowd when we played it, where you've got your team and you're giving clues, but then the opposite team gets to guess before your team does after you've given a clue. So you have to be obtuse enough to lead the other team astray. But thanks to your secret clues that you've given to your teammates, you hopefully lead them in the right direction. It's tricky. My son likes it. Crosstalk.
I am so excited to try Crosstalk, Eric. I just, it's one of those games I haven't managed to get to the table yet, but I'm really looking. It sounds like so much fun. So it's good to hear that your family likes it a ton too.
Yes. The thing about Crosstalk is it's about to be, in my opinion, it's about to be obliterated by the new yellow game that is, what's it called? Crypto.
But that's next year.
Decrypto.
I'm sorry, Decrypto. I think they're fairly close in how they feel, and Decrypto to me just blows it away.
But that's
really? Well, Decrypto uses that red film material, right?
I played it back when it was not yet made, so I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Okay, all right.
Red lens technology?
Yeah, like the old school thing where you put the card behind the red film and it reveals the secret word kind of thing.
Password used that as well.
Oh, there we go. Something to look forward to. Well, speaking of drawing a crowd, when you're talking about Crosstalk, my pick of party game for the year is Word Slam from Cosmos. This game, it's really, really simple. You got teams going on, and each team has the same set of word cards, whether it's left, right, green, blue, whatever, really simple things. And then there's a secret word that the teams, the clue givers are trying to get their team to guess first. And that's really all there is to it. But the way they do it is that they're silently using these cards. They put them in, card holders so that the other team can't see. And they're putting these cards out to get you to guess. So maybe the word is waffle. And, the people are searching through these cards trying to find the word food and white and flat or things like that. And it's really interesting. I've played Word Slam a ton, and I've seen it played where everybody is just shouting and it's frantic and it's, pancake and biscuits and everybody's just kind of has this high energy. I've also been in games where people were trying to game it, and they got very whispery and intense because as you're saying things, both teams are trying to guess the same word. Mm-hmm. So anything you say is essentially a clue potentially to the other team. And so I've been in this game where everybody was whispering in their own teams and trying not to let the other team hear what they were saying to not help them. And either way, it's super fun. I really like that people can drop in and out of the game. You can play it with 20 people if you want to, and it's still a ton of fun. So Word Slam is my best party game for the year.
That is a good choice. I do like Word Slam a lot.
I need to add it to the list to play.
You absolutely do. I also like the fact that you get to yell Word Slam when you play. That's really fun.
Anytime you can yell the name of the game, that's good. So, years ago, cooperative games were an anomaly, something that you only came across every once in a while. Now they're everywhere. How do you pick the best of 2017?
Sorry, I was writing down that I'm making a top 10 list of games where you yell the name when you're playing them. All right. No, that's a good list. Yahtzee. Sorry. Anyhow, okay, this one was really easy for me. It is Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Phenomenal. Better than the first one. Can't say much more because I don't want to spoil it, but suffice it to say it's a very different game. And, non-spoiler stuff will tell you that. It plays very differently. The game expands. The things grow as you go through the game. The choices, each game is going to feel completely different. Like my board's going to look very different than Eric's. His will probably show a victory thing at the end of it. And I love the storyline of it. I don't know, it just felt unique and refreshing and let me play through the game at my own pace, sort of, which was different too. Love it a lot. Pandemic Legacy Season 2.
Yeah, I may very well get there soon, but my selection right now is one of the escape room games, Unlock, which is my preference for all of those. It's constrained with the deck of cards. I like adding the items together, finding the hidden objects in the illustrations. It's really cool and one that my family has enjoyed, but I think it fits better as a full cooperative game than a strictly family game? Unlock.
Well, as a person who is not typically a fan of cooperative games, this was a tough category for me. But thankfully, this year had Magic Maze in the mix, and that is my choice for best cooperative game. Magic Maze, it's got a great energy to it as you're all working to get around these boards and get your weapons and get out on time as each player has their own direction that they get to move the pawns in. And of course you have the red pawn of expectation that you get to pound in front of people when they're not doing the thing you think they should do. And ultimately I think I like Magic Maze because even though it's cooperative, there's still this sense of individualism as you're playing. You feel like you have control over what you're supposed to be doing, and there's still maybe occasionally a bit of like a combative feeling to it at times when people aren't doing what you wish they would do. But because you can't talk, it doesn't drag down the gameplay at all. And I've just had a blast with Magic Maze. So that is my cooperative game for 2017.
Also, with the limited communication, there's no way for an alpha player really to do anything in that
Absolutely. Game. It's a huge problem I personally have with cooperative games that does not appear in Magic Maze.
We love innovation. What game changed the playing field forever in 2017? What's the most innovative game?
Okay, thanks because what game changed the playing field forever? Nothing. Honestly, I don't believe there was a single game changer game out there, really. A lot of games built on other things. So there are games with minor innovation in them. The one I'm going to pick here, and it's Fog of Love. This one's a hard call to make because I haven't played it. But I read through the rules and walked through the demo game, and it feels completely different than anything I've ever seen. It's almost like a role-playing-ish kind of game. It's just unique and different. So that would be my pick. I don't know. I'll tell you what wouldn't be my pick. That's your cue, Eric.
Thanks for the segue. So yeah, I agree. There really wasn't any standout, oh my goodness, this changed everything. But I do like the Fast Forward series from Stronghold, in which there is no rule book. You open up the deck of cards and just start reading through, and it teaches you how to play as you're playing the game. And then as you work your way through the deck, there are complications that change things and make things more difficult or different. And I think that's a neat concept, and that there's almost a scripted nature as you work your way through the deck. There's certainly random elements as you reset things or make mistakes or deal cards out. But as you learn more about the game, it's the way the designer has presented it to you. And I like the twists and turns of that. I think it's a neat way to do things. The Fast Forward series.
No, it's fine. I'm just giving you garbage. That's good. I mean, it's a riff on the Fabled Fruit game to some degree.
Yeah, but it feels very different than Fabled Fruit, though.
Not really. If you take it down, you could say, oh, the rulebook's on cards. Well, big deal. That doesn't really change the game much. Other than that, it pretty much is the exact same thing. They even say on it, it's the Fable system.
Sure.
Well, I'm going to cheat along with Tom. Since Tom set the precedent, I figure it's allowed for me too, right? Because
Might as well. Who needs rules?
Because I've not played this game, but my pick for innovation is DropMix. This is the game in which you are using chipped cards on this platform, and as you drop these microchipped cards onto the platform, it mixes up songs. There are multiple different kind of gameplay modes that you can do in challenge mode or mix mode or casual mode and all these other things. But really, this whole concept of having a game about music that actually plays music, that you can mix it up and use as this card element, I just think it's conceptually so cool and unique and different and innovative.
I'll agree. The technology is very impressive. The game,
Sure. And like I said, I hadn't played it, picked purely because of what I perceive to be a creative new approach.
It definitely is cool tech, for sure.
We love talking about weird themes, weird games. What was the strangest of the year?
Yeah, strangest game is kind of on one hand, I want to say it's this War of Mine, just because that game is really about not losing as badly. It's more about making you think than it is about winning. I mean, can you win the game? I guess. Has anyone ever done it? I don't think so. And if you did, do you go home and be happy about it? You're going to go home weeping after playing this game. And that's actually not really that much of an exaggeration. It's a very sobering game. Other than that, I might say Mountains of Madness, because it takes this cooperative game, let's all work together, get things done, and mixes it with like a silly party style thing. But you can't ever say the word the or whatever, And it's silly and it's really weird. I like it, but it's a very strange game. Mountains of Madness.
Yes, this was a very close second for me. Mountains of Madness is to have this Cthulhu mythos game that's more of a silly... anyway, my pick was Sherlock Holmes.
I hate that name.
Which is... I mean, it's on its face, it's a deduction game that has some neat elements to it. My kids like it. It's an interesting card game to work your way through. But this theme of a cat Sherlock Holmes chasing Furiarty, and it's just odd. It's weird. It pretends to be from a universe that I've never heard of, and I fear that there will be more games in this universe. So almost as a portent of things to come, I think it's odd. Sherlock Holmes.
And I went with Sidereal Confluence, or Sidereal? I say Sidereal Confluence. This is a game from WizKids, and it is completely open negotiation. Everything is negotiable. Everything can be made a deal. It's competitive, but you have to kind of make all these cooperative style deals with your opponents. It's unique in overall, and it's odd. It's odd for sure. So that was my pick for strangest game.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd one for sure.
All right, the best way to enjoy a game you love is to add more to it. Well, I mean, it's one of the ways to enjoy a game that you love is to add more to it. What's the best expansion of 2017?
Woo! Always a tough year. There's so many great expansions that come out these days. But an easy choice for me, even though I really do like Arcadia Quest Pets, Champions of Midgard Valhalla. This took Champions of Midgard from being a game I liked to in my top 20 games of all time. Champions of Midgard's a worker placement game with dice. I like that aspect a lot. This allows you roll dice and fight, and then your dice die, which sometimes is bad. This lets your dice that die have other ways to get you points, which really changes up the game a lot to the point where I'll never, ever play without this expansion. Champions of Midgard Valhalla, just one of the best expansions I've ever played.
Wow.
I think if you like Potion Explosion, everything that you like about that game is just added to with the fifth ingredient expansion, which is my pick. Not only does it add wild marbles into the mix, but it adds these professors that add global rules for the entire game. Some of them adding a dexterity element, others making you change the rules and how you fulfill these potions, new potions, all the stuff you like about Potion Explosion, more of it with the fifth ingredient, my pick.
And I am not a big expansion person, but when one of my favorite games got an expansion, you knew I had to be all over it. And that's Automobiles Racing Season. Racing Season takes what is an excellent, engaging, pool-building racing game and makes it ridiculously awesome. There are new tracks, including one that's optimized for 2 and 3 players. It's one of my favorite ways to play automobiles now because of the way that the track is developed, and it has really tight lanes and things like that. It's so full of tension, but it also adds other gameplay elements that are optional as well, including the drivers. And all of these drivers have special abilities that you can draft from at the beginning of the game, and they are all ridiculous and overpowered and amazing, and somehow that all balances out and just ups the fun level to 11. Automobiles Racing Season, it adds a ton of play options, new track options, and just makes everything I love about the base game better.
I have not played this one yet, but now I'm wondering if I should.
You totally should, especially if you ever want to play like a smaller player count. That new, I think it's the Monte Carlo track. Oh, so good.
Tom always says, if it's a good enough game, it will come back, and these have. What's our best reprint of the year?
Oh my goodness, what a year for reprints. And for sure, Restoration Games is on the forefront of this with 3 of them, right? I think I have the top 10, all 3. Well, I mean, that's what Restoration Games is doing, right? And hopefully they'll stick with doing that rather than changing and making other games like other companies have done in the past. Stronghold. So Downforce would be my pick here. A slight nod to Twilight Imperium 4. Nice, neat. But Downforce, I never even played the original version of this racing game. I never thought much about it. I played Downforce and I was blown away with just how fast, simple, fun. This is almost like if I don't usually put reprints in other categories, but I would have probably put this in family game. That's how strong this game is. This works every time I played it with everybody.
It's an excellent edition of this game, a new version of one that's shown up many times in the past. I went with a different restoration game, and that's Stop Thief. The turning of a Squawk Box game into an app-driven experience with so much polish and the promise of new game modes and all sorts of cool stuff. This is another one that my son has really latched onto and enjoys playing and is trying to teach his little brother to play as well. I think it's just it's a stellar production of a classic game and really sort of exemplifies what Restoration is trying to do with these reprints, making them stand up to today's scrutiny while still living up to the past of the classics. Stop Thief is my pick.
And Eric, in not too long from now, Stop Thief is going to have a pretty cool update with a cooperative mode.
I have heard these things, yes.
And it's really good.
Is it?
Spoiler alert.
Oh, great. Inside info.
So this was a little bit awkward for me because for those of you who don't know, I actually consult with restoration games in another world, and so I definitely want to be really transparent about that and avoid any concerns around conflicts of interest, because ultimately Honestly, Downforce would have been on my top 10 for the year, and it would have been on my best reprint list. But I understand I can't say that because that looks awful, so I won't.
I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm really glad both of you enjoy those games. But that's okay because, like Tom said, this was a phenomenal year for reprints, and I had plenty to choose from that I love. Ultimately, I have selected The Climbers that I actually had been chatting online for a while, hoping it would get a reprint, and I knew it was going through a couple of deals, and finally Capstone Games landed it, which actually surprised me. I'm so glad they did it. And The Climbers is just basically a box of blocks that is made into an excellent, tense, mean, kind of abstract game that's beautiful on the table, really dynamic. It kind of catches your eye as you're going, and people are always curious, what are you doing? How do you play this thing? It's very strategic. It's very challenging. And who doesn't like playing with blocks, right? So best reprint for me, The Climbers.
All right, playing the light stuff is great, but every once in a while you want to sit down and have a real deep, meaty experience with a board game. What was the biggest brain burner of the year?
For me, it was Sandiego Confluence. Suzanne already mentioned this as a strange game. This game is a negotiation game, which is fine. I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna trade with everybody. But the things you trade with, the amount of stuff that's going on in this game, you cannot turn your brain off for 1 second in this game. And you're sitting there thinking at the end, okay, I can trade in these for this if I get that from over there, and Billy will give me that, and Mandy will give me this, but I have to give this over here to Bethany. It's super confusing, and I love it. But wow, when I come out, I'm like, whew, that was a workout. Sandiego Confluence.
I'm almost staying away from it due to that. My pick is Pulsar 2849, a game with so many options. It's dice drafting, so you have a little bit of a limiting factor there, but each of those dice can be used in so many ways, and your options just grow as the game continues, as your options and possible technologies advance, and you're exploring and moving around space and getting techs and building things, and it's just, there's a lot to think about, a lot of plates to keep spinning. Pulsar 2849.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying it. I haven't got to the table. I'm hearing great things. Mandy loves Pulsar 2849. And, she always says she's not really into the space theme games.
I know.
But she adores, I'm like, okay, but you keep on talking about it. And she loves Pulsar 2849. So I'm really looking forward to trying it. All right, for Brain Burner, I kind of went in a different direction. I could have picked one of I thought about like Yokohama or something like that, like some of the bigger Euros I played over the year. But ultimately, I actually went with the Exit series. Or I could argue any of the kind of puzzle, escape room kinds of things. But really, the Exit series specifically is the one that challenges me. And what I really like about it and why I call it a brain burner is it makes me use my brain in different ways within a single game. There's a variety of puzzles, whether it's a visual recognition or some kind of, cipher that you have to work on or all sorts of things, spatial recognition, and the diversity of the puzzles, the cleverness of the puzzles. I think Inka and Marcus Brand, who are creating these games, are sheer genius. And the way Exit makes me stretch and think differently within a 1 hour experience, it gets me for a brain burner.
I agree. All right, we have done a lot of traveling in 2017, lots of events. Which one comes out on top? What's the best gaming event of the year?
I'm going to rank them all in order. No, I'm not. Because then, no, if you rank them all in order, then that means that people will be like, what? You like that one the least? Like, no. Now, I mean, obviously, we're going to say our own events, but Dice Tower Cruise was just so fantastic this year. Had such a good time on it. I like Dice Tower Con a lot, and it was a great show, but Dice Tower Cruise is just where it's at. But taking that out of the mix, I'm going to go with PAX. I really, really liked PAX. It was just a great time. It felt there was a different audience. The surrounding area, it was neat to see historical Philadelphia. I don't know. It felt so, you know what? I'm so stressed at Gen Con and Essen. It was nice to go to a convention where I wasn't stressed for once for me. And also there wasn't that whole, must get the newest thing now there. And that was a refreshing change of pace. So, it might change back. Don't get me wrong. I loved all the other shows. I have a good time at every show. But this year I'm going to say PAX.
Yeah, I was very impressed with PAX as well. You had that relaxed vibe, like you said. I fear that now that the first year has gone by, a lot more people will want to come, and it may lose some of that relaxed vibe. There might be more pressure, more people, more crush next year, but still, the location can't be beat. I still have to give the nod to Dice Tower Con, though. I like the player conventions. I like, and PAX had this as well. They had some really nice open gaming areas. They're doing a lot of things right there. But Dice Tower Con is all about the play of the games. It had plenty of space. Now that we had the entire facility, lots of space to play, lots of ways to meet new players, terrific library, possibly the best in the industry as far as gaming libraries at conventions. It's just a stellar event. I love it. Dice Tower Con.
Totally agree, Eric. For that players convention, it's amazing. And the thing that one of the most random things that impressed me, when people were waiting in line to register the morning of the convention open, they had breakfast in the hallway.
Oh, yes.
Well, do you remember that? Like, they had buffet tables all the way down this long hallway with muffins and orange juice. I have never ever seen that at any show, let alone one that's as big as Dice Tower Con. I mean, hey, free breakfast food. That's amazing. But ultimately, I will say Essen was my favorite gaming event this year. It was maybe because it was new to me, and for you too, it's old hat. No, not at all. But
no.
Essen was a unique experience for me. Being over in Europe, seeing this spectacle and mass of people, of families there for board games, for analog games. Mm-hmm. It was overwhelming. The crowd that came up and visited us at the Dice Tower Con booth, at the Dice Tower booth, or at the live show at the Dice and Mystics event. It was emotional for me. It was just such a fabulous, exciting, thrilling, exhausting adventure. And I don't think I'll never forget it. Essen for 2017 was my event of the year for sure.
It's a great experience. I look forward to simply the travel, being in Europe for that week and experiencing sort of a flip of the coin of the industry and a different perspective on it. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Woo! Are we at the top 10 list yet?
Almost. I wanted to add one more. We've traditionally added these sort of random one-off categories. I wanted to mention one thing that happened this year. The oddest marketing campaign that we ran into was Plaid Hat's Raxon game, where they only sent out a couple copies at first, and then those people could tell 3 people, and then those people could tell 3 people, who then had the permission to buy the game. And it was sort of this viral expansion of the game. Everyone was talking about it. I still haven't played the darn thing. But it was just very odd to have permission to buy a game. I think it's out now. You can get it, but it was weird.
Now, can we get to the top 10?
Yes, sir.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
Okay, so here we go. Right before we get to the top 10, I always like to amuse myself with these. So I have written down 10 games I think will be on your list.
Oh.
So I'm giving myself a point if I get them correct. I actually was fixing these halfway through the episode based on things you said to give myself a slight edge. And I can see Eric already typed his number 10, so I'm 0 for 1.
Good.
But still, and I don't know Suzanne's all the games she's played and or all her game taste that well. But I know I'm going to get at least 1 right on each list. That's my goal. 1 out of 10. All right, let's start.
That's not too difficult. Okay.
Number 10.
My number 10 would have been Pandemic Rising Tide, but there's still a bit of a question mark whether that's actually happening by the end of the year. We only have about 2 weeks before the end of the year, and, well, we're not really sure. Anyway, so my number 10 is officially The Quest for El Dorado, which is Reiner Knizia's deck-building race game, which I thought was very quirky and fun, and a nice addition to the genre, and has lots of play modes that can be mixed and matched, and the maps are all different. And The Quest for El Dorado, my number 10.
My number 10 is Kokoro. This is a roll and write game. And it is really an evolution on a game called Avenue, but they changed it up enough for it to stand on its own. It's set in kind of this Kodama universe, so the art is charming and adorable, but that rock-solid gameplay of the card play where you're drawing paths on your sheets, it's all still there. But now you have these really great dry erase boards, and they've added some randomization elements so that you don't have the exact same board every time if you don't want to. And they've also added power cards as well that lets you mix up the gameplay, adding even more variety to the game. So Kokoro, I can throw it down with anybody. It plays any number of people, and it's a roll and write game, even though there's no dice involved. So that's my number 10.
Hooray, I'm 0 for 1 with everybody. My number 10 is Santorini. Now, for some people like, what? This wasn't even on the 2017 list, but it definitely came out in 2017. At the very beginning of the year. I know it's a reprint of another game, but that other game got almost no distribution and no talk. I want to say it was print and play. But Santorini is one of the best abstract games I've ever played. It's fantastically cool. I love the look of it. I love how every game feels different because there's a different god power that's in play that you have. So that it might change the rule. It changes just one rule, but it changes so interestingly how the game works. I love this a lot. Also get the Golden Fleece. That's Santorini, my number 10.
Number 9.
My number 9 sounds like your number 10. It's Santa Maria. The dice drafting game that uses a grid system, and you're activating rows and columns of buildings and stuff. And I like the thinky aspect of how do you string them together, because they still activate in order to get the things you need. And at first, it's very simple. You only have a couple of buildings in a row or column, but eventually you might have 4, 5, 6 in a row or column, making some pretty big turns. Santa Maria.
So you like this one that much then? Huh?
I do. I like it a lot. My number 9.
Cool.
Oh, it's killing me because that's one of the games that's in a box somewhere in Germany that's supposed to get to me soon, and I'm so excited to try it. That sounds great.
Yeah, same for me. I'm still waiting to play this one.
Cool. All right, my number 9 is Fox in the Forest from Renegade Games. This is a 2-player trick-taking game. I love trick-taking games. The idea of a 2-player trick-taking game is uncommon, and this one does it phenomenally well. It also features simply stunning art, and I've had so much fun playing this one. The special powers that are on, the different cards really make the trick taking possible. I wouldn't have thought you could do this with a trick taking game, and was surprised, delighted, and I've played it a bunch now. That is Fox in the Forest.
Huh. All right. So I'm doing really well here, 0 for 2, but I could still get some. I could get 8 out of 10.
Sure.
All right. My number 9 is Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis just came out of nowhere for me. I saw it and I was like, oh, a game about trees. That's a really cool theme. Then I looked at it. It looked amazing. Then I played it and said, wow, this is a Spiel des Jahres, at least nominated list in my opinion. It is good for families, but at the same time, it can be very vicious back and forth. Heavy gamers like it. Family gamers like it. You can play it light. You can play it heavy. Few rules. Great game. Photosynthesis.
This is one on the ever-growing list of games I didn't get to this year.
Number 8.
My number 8 was almost a surprise for me. It's from Osprey Games called Star Cartel. It's a space-themed market game, stock market game, with some interesting subtle mechanisms that you have to sort of ride in order to adjust the market price of stuff. You have to collect sets of cards, but if you collect those cards, you are not adjusting the price of those cards. So you have to really plan ahead or plan behind or, really have a plan in Star Cartel. My number 8.
Eric, I don't know about you. I really enjoy Star Cartel too, but did you also make the mistake that the med packs, we played an entire game where we thought they were Chinese food takeout boxes. So we're like, I'm going to take the Chinese food. And then we realized we looked closer. We're like, oh, wait, that's a medical pack. That makes much more sense.
No, I didn't make that mistake.
Drat. My number 8 is Kali Mala from Blackfire, ACD Blackfire. This is a Euro-style game. And I got to tell you, it's maybe not a perfect game, but it has this action selection mechanism that, oh my gosh, I just adore it, where you have an action grid, and where you put your disc between those two actions, you get to take both of those actions, like get a resource or deliver a good. Great. But you stack these discs, and when you put your disc on top of another player's disc that was there previously, you trigger the entire column. So the people below you also get to take those actions as well. That in and of itself is really, really fun. You get to randomize where the tiles go, so it changes up game to game. Then there's also this scoring track that randomizes, and the balance between optimizing your actions with what elements are going to score first, boy, that is super duper fun. It is really engaging. It makes you work hard. It kind of took me by surprise. I got a quick overview of it at Essen. I'm like, I got to try this game. And boy, oh boy, I'm glad I did. Kali Mala is my number 8.
My number 8 is a game that I helped find for Dice Tower Essentials, and that's Viral. Really like this game. I like the interesting, unique theme of viruses attacking human body and scientists trying to kick you out of that body, or medical, the doctors. I like that. I like the colorful, silly artwork of the game. I like the area control and slowly mutating your virus so it's different than everyone else's. And it's a nice family weight style game, maybe slightly higher than family weight, but not that complex of a game. A lot of fun. Great looking package. Viral from Arcane Wonders.
Number 7.
My number 7, and I swear I didn't do this on purpose, is The Seventh Continent, the exploration game that is... It's a whole bunch of cards, and the whole...
Wait, when did you play this?
I played, like, the intro at a convention, and I have a copy that I am waiting to get started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know you had played this one.
I did, like, enough to escape the first island, and that's about it. I like the exploration. I like the discovery of those... of the artwork, like the hidden objects in the artwork that can lead you to new quests and items, and the puzzly nature of the whole thing. I know I will adore this, and I think this is one that will probably move up when we do this list in 5 years. I think it will be higher on the list, but I still haven't delved deep enough in the game yet to really know that I'll love it, but I think I will. The Seventh Continent, my number 7.
I could not come up with such clever number alignment for mine, but my number 7 is Lost Expedition from Osprey Games. I talked about it in the art category, but the gameplay itself is lovely and wonderful. This is a cooperative game, but I actually primarily play it solo, and it plays excellently as a solo game as you are trying to work towards the lost city of Z, and you get these cards that provide different challenges that you have to determine how you conquer them. If you can conquer them, you have to manage your resource chips very, very wisely. I lose it almost always. Apparently, I'm very bad at exploring the jungles of South America, but I sure do have a lot of fun doing it. And as mentioned in the art category, the art just brings it all together. And I really feel the story as I'm playing it. And another reason I love The Lost Expedition from Osprey, my number 7.
All right, my number 7.
How you doing on our counts there, buddy?
I just don't know you guys. That's all there is to it. Also glad you're not in my gaming group. Ooh. All right. That's super mean to say. Okay, I didn't mean that. No, if you were in my gaming group, you'd play better games. All right, my number 7 is Godfather. I really enjoyed this one. And this one came out to like, whoa, Godfather, the board game, and then died out and no one talks about it. But I think it's a really strong area control game, has a good gangster theme to it, beautiful miniatures involved with it. I like the whole aspect of, fighting over the areas. It's just a really mean area control game, but I don't mind that once in a while. It's a lot of fun for me. So Godfather, the board game. I think it's called Corleone's Empire.
Number 6.
Number 6, I'm pretty sure Tom guessed, and that's Century Spice Road. I like the efficiency engine of this. Yes, I finally got him on the scoreboard. I like the transferring of cubes into other cubes. I know some hate that sort of thing, but I love the puzzle where you're trying to figure out how to efficiently get to those orders, get the cubes you need, and get the actions that are going to help you do so. It's a neat puzzle. Century Spice Road, number 6.
Now, Eric, do you have the Century Spice Road, or do you have the Century Golem edition?
I do not have the Golem edition. I mean, hearing that there weren't expansions for the Golem edition.
Blah, 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 blah. Tell people to get the Golem edition. Important in case you want to support Dice Tower in the upcoming Kickstarter.
Oh, well, yeah, you should then get it, I guess.
It has way better. I almost picked it for best artwork of the year.
I do. I almost, if I had the choice, if both of them came out at the same time, I probably would have gone for the Golem edition, but I had already bought the first one. I didn't need the other one.
Well, I own them both, so, I'll cover for you, Eric.
Okay.
All right, my number 6 is Sentient from Renegade Games. This is, it's a set collection card game that has a very puzzly element with some dice, and it also has an element of area control. And all of those pieces come together so well for me. I actually find it to be a bit of a brain burner, which when I first played it kind of took me by surprise. I didn't realize it was going to be so deep. But you have some real challenging choices that you need to make at times about, taking a card because you need it for your set collection, or taking a card because it happens to be where you're trying to gain some control over one of the scoring markers up above the track. Plus that puzzly element of figuring out how your dice values need to be in order for those cards to score. I find I often am like twisting my head to make sure I'm looking at the alignments correctly. Or can I pick this card up and test it here? And, because I just can't visualize it. There's a lot more going on than I expected at first. I've played this game a lot this year, and considering how rarely I get to do a lot of repeat plays, I think that says something. And Sentient always makes me think of Mandy, because she and I have played it together a couple times and both enjoyed it, but I've had a lot of fun playing it with her, which maybe elevates it a little bit for me as well. So that is Sentient, my number 6.
My number 6 is my favorite cooperative game of the year, and that is Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Again, it's one of the games I played the most this year because I played it 15 times, which was exciting. That's a lot. I liked it. Eric mentioned these campaign games and going through them, but I didn't blink once going through this. Thought it was fun the whole way through, even to our demoralizing defeat. Still enjoyed it and therefore it's on my list. Pandemic Legacy Season 2.
I asked my family if they wanted to play another round of this tonight, literally, and instead they wanted to watch Olaf's Frozen Adventure on TV. I just wanted to share. Anyway.
That's why you need to get streaming, Eric. You can just watch what you want when you want to watch it. You're not tied to a time.
Well, no, this was recorded on the DVR. They didn't actually have that excuse.
Okay, never mind then. You don't.
Number 5.
My number 5, we mentioned earlier as best reprint for me, and that's Stop Thief. I think they just did a stellar job here. It really exemplifies.
This is your number 5?
Number 5. I think that for the accomplishment of what they did, bringing this classic game back, it deserves its place on the list.
I'm glad they did that, but I don't. It doesn't. It's super light. I mean, I like it. It is, but I mean, it just doesn't.
As a success for my family, I have to put it on the list. Stop Thief, number 5.
Okay.
Good choice, Eric. My number 5 is Barren Park.
I almost picked that for you. Then I said, no, that would be too light for her.
No,
I love this game we're playing.
Oh, he thinks it's too light. Wait until he sees my number 1. So Barren Park is a polyomino heaven. I love games that feature polyominoes, and Barren Park does it extremely well. In fact, Barren Park completely replaces Cottage Garden for me. It's, I'd hoped Cottage Garden would be kind of a lighter experience to patchwork, and it wasn't what I wanted. But Barren Park, you have this delightful theme about creating a bear park, even though koalas are not bears, but we won't get into that here. You're selecting these tiles, you're putting them on, they decrease as points as you go, so you're kind of rushing to that. There are goal cards that you can try to achieve that allow you to focus. It's light, it's quick, it's fun. You feel like you're building something. You have that puzzly element of the different shapes. It's just delightful. I really enjoy it. I've played it a ton this year. I can teach it to anybody. I find it's really accessible, especially to newer gamers as well. So Barren Park, my number 5.
My number 5 is Dinosaur Island. This game was essentially Jurassic Park in a box, and yes, it was. It is a worker placement game that I think is a really fun worker placement game, but also has a healthy dose of theme. I like the whole building an amusement park that happens to have dinosaurs that eat people occasionally. Just super fun, and I'm excited to play it again. Dinosaur Island.
This is getting a lot of good press. I want to play it.
I'm basically extremely envious that you've gotten to play it. I can't wait.
It was on the cruise. I mean, didn't you have time to play every single game in that library on the cruise?
Oh, twice. Yeah, I was just doing it for drama.
Number 4.
Number 4, I mentioned as family game, Meeple Circus. I think it's a great one. Silly stuff. You have to stand up and applaud and eat a sandwich, pretend to eat a sandwich. Good stuff. Meeple Circus, number 4.
I haven't got that card yet. Is that an actual card?
Yeah, you take like a 30-second break and pretend to eat a sandwich while doing absolutely nothing. So you have less time to complete your arrangement, but you get, the extra points for eating a sandwich.
Love it. Okay. My number 4 is Azul. Azul is, we mentioned it briefly, is potentially components. This is a pretty straightforward abstract game that has excellent components in these starburst-like tiles that you place on boards. It scales phenomenally well from 2 to 4 players. I've played it at every player count, and I love it at every player count, even though it feels a little bit different. It feels tighter and meaner at 2 players and a little more open and relaxed at 4, interestingly enough. I love Azul. It's a great abstract. It's beautiful. If this is the direction that Plan B Games is going, you can sign me up to pre-order everyone that they come out with, because it is excellent.
I think this one's going to be talked about for a long time, honestly. All right, we're starting to get to the amazing games. My number 4 is Pulsar 2849. I like it that much. I think this game just is phenomenally cool. It offers so many choices, and all the choices are excellent. I just got thrashed in this game by Sam by like 60 points, and I still didn't care. I loved it. I just made some really bad choices, but I had fun the whole time. This is not for everyone. This is point salad with a capital P, but it is still really fun. I don't know what it is about it. I just like it. That's Pulsar $28.49.
This was definitely shortlist. Yeah, this was on the shortlist for me.
Well, Mandy would be proud because it'll be on her list too, I bet.
Yes.
Number 3.
My number 3 is the game about alpacas, Altiplano, which takes the Orleans system, the bag building system, and adds sort of a map, a location aspect to the whole thing. I liked the synergy of the actions. I liked walking around and increasing my ability to move and do more and more on my turn. It was very cool. Altiplano, number 3.
Well, Eric, I just don't know what to do because we have synergy.
Yay!
Yes! Yes!
Did you guess
I put that on Suzanne's list, but not Eric's.
No. Well, you got one of us. Altiplano, everything Eric said. I love Orleans, but somehow Altiplano feels streamlined. I'm more engaged. I love everything that this game does. Plus, I enjoy the theme and the art even more. Boy, oh boy, it is a good one. That is Altiplano, also my number 3.
But the question is, have you named the alpaca start player marker?
We have not named it yet. We're going to settle into that, but we have put googly eyes on it.
Mine's called Waste of Space, and I put him back in the box. He keeps falling over. I want like a plastic. I like a plastic one or something.
Promo.
My number 3 is from Ryan Lockett, Near and Far. I thought Above and Below was just okay. I really did. So when the sequel came out for it, I was like, oh, okay, we'll check it out. And wow, did I like it. This is one of 2 great story games that came out this year. The other is the one that just came out from Fantasy Flight Games, the Dragonholt, or whatever it's called. But this one is not just a storytelling game. It's also a fantastic, amazing board game, which, Ryan Lockett does very well. Great production, his best game, one of my favorite games, period, not just of the year.
Number 2.
My number 2, if the game comes out in the next 2 weeks, would be Stuffed Fables, but that's not looking like that's going to happen. So I won't talk about that until next year. My actual number 2 is Near and Far, which
I picked that for
Tom just mentioned.
Yeah.
Everything Tom said, we already talked about it with the world, and there's different ways to play this game. There's the campaign. You can just build a character. All sorts of great stuff. It's so dense in that box. A stellar production and a great game, Near and Far.
Oh, you guys are killing me because I am a huge Red Raven fan of all of his games. I personally really like Above and Below, and I haven't managed to get my copy of Near and Far to the table yet.
Ooh.
And
I was to say, it came out a while ago.
I know.
Didn't it? It came out like in June.
It looks so wonderful. I'm so excited to play. I'm gonna refocus and make my play groups play it with me, no matter what. All right, gonna happen.
That's how you do
That's
it. Make them do it.
Assertive. I'm gonna take your advice. All right. Well, my number 2 is Mini Rails. This is a game out of, I think, Japan or Taiwan. Oh, shoot. I can't remember. But designed by Mark Garrett, this is kind of a condensed train game, which, as many of us know, train games are really stock market games. So in Mini Rails, you have your very simple choice, 2 actions. You either place a track on the board or you buy a stock and adjust the prices accordingly. It's that simple. But the way that the action track works with player order really, really matters. The board is modular, so different areas benefit you more or less. And of course, as the prices of stocks go up and down, it impacts everybody else who has that. The randomness of these chips that come out, so different things will move and different things won't. You can't quite predict. It adds just the right amount of random to me, and it plays very well at the higher player counts, which I always enjoy because I have a very active play group, and it's actually harder for us to get smaller, like 2-player games to the table than it is to get larger group ones. Mini Rails, it is a brain burner. It's simple mechanically, but deep and fun, and I love it. So that makes it my number 2.
My number 2 was already mentioned by Eric. It is The Amazing Seventh Continent. I love these games that have a story. You'll notice that this is all top of my top 3 games. Near and Far, now Seventh Continent. Just an amazing game. Choose your own adventure style game, but as a group. Although I really consider it a solo game, which is why I didn't pick it for my favorite co-op game, because it doesn't really feel like a cooperative game. It feels almost like a solo type
Agreed.
thing. But the adventure in it is so entertaining. I just want to play this again and again. Seventh Continent.
Solo may be the only way I get this whole thing played.
Is it a big deal to lay it out and pack it away after you play?
Nope. Super fast. 5 minutes.
Awesome. Oh, awesome.
And finally, number 1.
All right, Tom may have kept the escape games off his list, but I did not. Unlock is my number 1.
I knew you would. I knew.
And Tom knew it. I have made no secret of the fact that I adore this system. The new ones are very, very good. The next wave is now available in the U.S. The pirate one and the underwater one are both very good. It's just, it's great. Play it with the family. I love the mental exercise. It is the most streamlined of the systems. I love them all, but this is the best. Unlock, number 1.
Well, I think that was somewhat predictable. I have to say, Eric, at Essen, you're a pretty laid back, easygoing guy. But
Yeah.
man, when you found out the unlocked kind of the big box version was there, you perked up and your brain immediately focused on that. And I think no matter what happened at that fair, you were going to get that big box unlock before you went
I was a
home, for
little
sure.
antsy for the first half
Basically,
a day.
if you ever see one of these kids at the pool and you're like, you can't run, but then the ice cream guy shows up and says, free ice cream. So the kid's like, oh, I'm not running. And he's walking like a speed. That was Eric.
Exactly.
He's like, unlock. I have to go. I'll be back.
Bye, Tom.
Nailed it. And it was awesome. All right, Tom, let me see. This one may surprise you or other people who know me, but I thought long and hard about this one. And ultimately, my number 1 is number 9.
Ooh.
Okay, sorry. That was really funny, though. But yeah. Because your number 1 is number 9.
I gave you that space. I wanted to give you a minute. I could have made it number 9, and then it would have been really mind-blowing, but yeah, it's too good for that. Number 9 is, again, it uses polyominoes, which I'm quite fond of. This is an abstract game, I guess, for all intents and purposes, where you've got these different shapes that are cleverly shaped like individual numbers 0 through 9, and as you pull out cards, you take the tile and put it in your tableau, and you're trying to fill it up, and then the tiles score based on how hot, what level you manage to get them up to as you're stacking up these tiles. It tickled. I played a lot of Tetris as a kid, and boy, oh boy, number 9 just tickles my fancy on that element so well. It's easy to set up. It's easy to teach. You can play this with any number of people as long as you have the components for it, which is why I own 2 sets of it, so I can play up to 8 people at once. It is pretty much a perfect filler, in my opinion, and it also plays great solo. And I track my plays, and when I was going back to kind of get ready for this episode, I realized I've played number 9 over 24 times, and I think any game that gets that much play out of me definitely deserves a spot in my top 10. And so number 9 is my number 1.
Huh. I would not have guessed that. I like number 9, but I just find it as that's fun, and move on. But wow. My number 1, no surprise, I'm sure, and that is Gloomhaven. This mega box of goodness, this giant campaign in a box. I like dungeon crawls anyway, but this takes it puzzly. It makes it intriguing. It's different than D&D. It has a different character system, character advancement. It's so fun and intriguing and interesting, and it's like a puzzle on how to win each battle. I shouldn't like it for many reasons. It's definitely huge and unwieldy, and yet it's not only my favorite game of the year, but my favorite game of all time currently. So, Gloomhaven. And now I must say, Suzanne, why Pie Town wasn't on your list. It should have been there based on theme alone.
I know, and the components are great, and I've only played it a couple of times, and I wasn't. I know. Mm-hmm. I think really, if they wanted it to be on my a lock for my tops, they need to have actual edible pies, even if it was like candy pie. If they had made candy pie, like edible pie components, easy lock for my number 1.
So you're just campaigning for bribes of food to be put in game boxes at this point.
I'm not above that, Eric.
I'm gonna be ordering pie this week. I need to make sure I get that done.
Yeah, I was a little
That's on my
disappointed
list
there
of
wasn't key
Christmas
lime pie
things.
on the cruise, Tom.
Well, there was on the last night.
Not you've told me all about this wonderful key lime pie in Florida.
Oh, that? I don't know that you can bring, like, actual other frozen food products onto the cruise. I'm not sure how I would have pulled
You're a
that
gamer,
off.
Tom. Get creative.
We could have had it at the pre-party.
Yes, that might have made sense. Shut up. All right. Okay, well, Suzanne, I was guessing with you a lot, but you had ranted about a lot of these things before us, and like I put Newsfjord on your list.
But it's still in a box. She hasn't gotten it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yokohama. I put that in there because you mentioned at the beginning. That was cheating, but. Oh, I also put Meeple Circus because I thought that was your style.
I love Meeple Circus. Not a top 10, but it definitely, I love it. I bought it right after we played it on the cruise. I went home and bought it right away.
It's better than number 9.
Oh.
Eric, I put Exit because I figured you'd put both in your
I
list.
almost
also thought
did, but I thought that I'd get so much ridicule that I didn't do it.
I would have been so happy that you had picked a game I wouldn't have cared. Sagrada, I thought, was one you would have picked,
It
too.
was also very, very close to the top.
There's a short list for me.
And I put Dice Forge for Eric. Bunny Kingdoms.
Haven't played that one.
Oh, it's good.
Oh. Well, I also put on your list, too. But neither one of you picked it. This is garbage. I'm ripping my list up. I got 1 Suzanne, 2 for Eric. That's worse. I did better with Sam and Z.
Wow.
But
I like
Eric,
this game.
Tom, you did say you weren't expecting a lot of crossover on our list either, and you were right. There's very little crossover here.
That's just one of these years. There's just not that much crossover in games.
Yeah.
It's and that is a good thing, I think, because it means you're like, oh, I don't know what game. There's not this one game everyone's like, you have to buy this game, and then if you don't like it, you're like, oh no, I don't like something everyone else
Right.
likes. Nah, you're okay.
Truly something for everyone.
Yes, lots of quality out there.
Okay, so let's see what the people's choice was. I'm going to go from 20 downwards.
Oh,
because
all right.
we can.
Sure.
20 Magic Maze, 19 Spirit Island, 18 the game none of us mentioned, Charterstone.
It's
big-
another campaign game. I don't have room for another campaign game.
And that's why I think that First Martians is not getting a lot of buzz either for that
Same
same reason.
thing.
Also the rulebook. 17, Azul. 16, Seventh Continent. 15, Codenames Duet. 14, Dice Forge. 13, Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. 12, Clans of Caledonia. 11, Sagrada. 10, Photosynthesis. 9, Godfather. 8, Clank in Space, which I didn't put because it's so similar to Clank. 7, Near and Far. 6, Downforce. 5, Pandemic Legacy Season 2. 4, a game I thought Eric would pick, Yamatai.
Haven't played it.
3, Gloomhaven. 2, In Your Face, Suzanne, Ethnos. And 1, Century Spice Road. Convincingly number 1, by the way.
Boy, oh boy,
So-
I'm going to get an earful from some people about Ethnos.
Nah. Like I said, there's going to be people who agree with you about it too, right? That's just the way this year has been. So, I mean, look, well, anyway, people have different opinions on board games, and that's fine. All opinions on the Dice Tower are the opinions of the people, not the opinions of the Dice Tower themselves. Tom's opinions are usually wrong, but probably.
Do I need to put that in the disclaimer at the end of the show now?
Oh my goodness, no.
Because I can rewrite that if you want.
Speaking of which, we probably should end the show. It's been a longer one. But, folks, we appreciate you coming with us and joining us on our shtick for 2017.
And
We still have one more episode coming out in 2017, I think.
yes,
Yes. So come back next week for that. Until then, I'm Tom Vassell,
I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
and I'm Eric Summerer.
and you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode number 534 was recorded on December 16th, 2017. Coming up next week, we're hoping Mandy is back to full strength so she and Suzanne can close off the year. Support for this podcast comes from listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. Find out more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Mandy, Suzanne, and Eric, with production assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Searing. Our theme was composed by Timothy Pinkham. Herman, Lily, and Eddie's quest for survival in a world of living nightmares is provided by Kingdom Death Munster. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. We love feedback. Visit the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com. Email us at Dicetower@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook. And of course, you can find more from the Dice Tower Network, including the Out of Game podcast, 20 Minutes of Filler, the Snakes Cast, the D6 Generation, the Family Gamers, Blue Peg, Pink Peg, the Portal Gaming Podcast, and Board Game Breakfast at DicetowerNetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
Okay, so I'm working on, we got to get this, the Great Pie delivery of 2018. This will happen. Okay, at some event, we're going to do pie.
Well, there could be like a pie buffet at Dice Tower Con.
Oh, gosh, Eric, you have a beautiful mind.
Well, it's a private pie buffet.
Yeah, I mean, we need to travel to a pie buffet.
No, like it will be just us. Don't worry, I got the pies.
Oh. Oh.
I love it when a plan comes together.